I spent over $1 million flying 40 business and first class flights last year, and I want to tell you all the good deals that I have picked up along the way, as well as sharing with you how I got $1 million on miles year after year. No time to waste, my first flight last year was with Gulf Air Business Class, flying from Bangkok to Singapore. It cost me 17,500 aeroplane points, which are super useful when it comes to flights within Asia. Award seats are also plentiful. Now unfortunately, Gulf Air doesn't fly this route anymore, but their 787 product was still pretty solid. I wouldn't hesitate to fly with them in the future should the opportunity comes again. Next pair of flights were with Qatar, flying their first class from Bangkok in the A380 to Doha, had an intentional layover and continue on to Dubai. Those cost me 82,500 Avios points. I wouldn't call this a super good deal, but hey, it's first class in the A380. Now listen, if you swap out the second flight to a North American city in business, but keeping the first flight in first, the trip would only cost as low as 95,000 Avios points. That would be a much better deal. So try this for yourself next time. Oh, and the Qatar flights were great, as usual, if nothing goes wrong. Sticking with first class, next I'm flying Etihad Apartment to London from Abu Dhabi in their A380. I booked this last minute with 62,500 American airline points. This is one of my favorite redemption last year and one of my top 5 first class seats. Now I know lots of people want to do the residence as part of their bucket list items. I personally think that the apartment, the one showing here, is really good enough already. Totally not worth paying few $1,000s more just to get the residence. I honestly think the apartment is a true sweet spot. After hanging around in Europe for a few weeks, I took one of the best value redemption ever with Iberia Business Class from Madrid to LA, with only 42,500 Avios points. Some East Coast cities, you can even get it for as little as 34,000 points. Now that would be a banger. Now despite not having a loud reputation in the aviation world, the flight was fine, decent product, especially for how little I paid for. Alright, so far I had a pretty decent start of the year, nailing down several great redemptions. By the way, I'll also touch on how I got over $1 million points year after year, so make sure to stick around and click the like button if you're enjoying the video so far. I took a pause for a couple months and then resumed my travel in early summer, and I managed to get one of the best aeroplane redemption ever, flying ANA business class from Vancouver to Tokyo with just 55,000 aeroplane points. This is one of the best sweet spots in aeroplane history, if not any program ever. Crossing the Pacific with just 55,000 points and to Japan? Are you kidding me? Even though the seats are not the latest ones, but it's ANA we're talking about here, so the quality was pretty good to say the least. Then I took a Cathay flight from Seoul to Hong Kong with 22,000 Avios points. Again, very easy to find business class seats with Asian carriers for intra-Asian routes. Now the seats were not the fanciest ones, they don't even lie flat, but for this price, it's not too bad. Cathay sometimes swap out their aircrafts with lie flat seats to these ones for regional routes, so be mindful of that. Sticking with Cathay again, this time with the lie flat seats, flying from Hong Kong to Delhi and then connecting to Helsinki with Finnair. These pair of flights cost me 70,000 Cathay Asia miles. Not too bad, especially I booked this right before their devaluation in the previous year. Now I recently also tried Cathay's brand new Aria suite. Quite surprising to me that I actually prefer the main business class seats showing here. But I'll go over the details in this dedicated video next time, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. Oh, and Finnair was great. I made a separate video a while back, go check it out after. The next 4 flights I flew with Aegean in business class, but as you know, short-haul European business class wasn't really that aspirational, so I didn't even bother to film them, but they were flying me from Dubrovnik to Athens and Santorini, followed by returning to Athens and onwards to Bucharest. 4 business class flights for a total of 30,000 aeroplane points. That's pretty decent, especially when economy seats can be crazy expensive in the high season too, so consider redeeming points for intra-European business class when it makes sense to you. Next one is one of the best points redemption which no longer exists. 45,000 Turkish airline points flying business class from Istanbul to Seattle. Nowadays, this would cost 65,000 points instead. Still pretty good when it comes to transatlantic business class flights, just not as good as before, so I was definitely lucky there. So the next few flights are gonna sound insane, but I happened to find some airfare redemptions. Check this out. Flying Lufthansa business class from Vancouver to Frankfurt in the legendary 747 and then to Montreal in the 787. these two flights cost me only 24,200 aeroplane points. That was such a steal. Subsequently, I flew Lufthansa old A350 to Munich and then back to Vancouver with their brand new Allegris business class. And I even got upgraded to the business suite for free, all with just another 24,500 points. Gosh, I was lucky twice in a row. Definitely luck out there. Now, if you want to know where I found these aerofares, drop a comment below, and if I receive enough requests, then I'll make a video to show you how. Anyway, few weeks later, I flew the Allegris business suite once again from Vancouver to Munich, but this time with a proper but still a great deal of 75,000 aeroplane points. Technically 70, but I took a stopover in Munich and continued my flight to Hamburg, also with Lufthansa. By the way, Lufthansa has improved so much. I mean, I took so many of the flights recently and all of them had great customer service, really unexpected. I would even dare to consider Lufthansa to be the greatest comeback story in recent aviation history. But as you will see later, there's another airline that impressed me even more and is definitely controversial, so stick around for that. But back to Lufthansa, I'll do a dedicated video explaining all of their business class seats from all of their aircrafts, including every single individual Allegris business seat in the near future. So again, subscribe and stay tuned. I ended my summer with one of the most surprising flights, flying back to Vancouver from Frankfurt with Condor New Business Class with only 55,000 Alaska Airline miles, but then I added another few $100 to upgrade to the Prime seat. Totally worth it. One of my favorite seats in the Business Plus category now. I really love Condor, and sometimes you can even get their cash fare for less than $1,000 one way. So if you don't want to use points, then Condor has possibly the most cash deals around flying across the Atlantic. We are not done yet. The following 3 months, I took some of the best flights in the industry, including 4 which I was very much looking forward to. You will know which ones I'm talking about when you see them. Next, we have Air Canada Business Class. While not the most aspirational one, but the deal was great. 25,000 aeroplane points flying from Vancouver to Newark in their 787 Signature class. Those who are complaining about airplanes' dynamic pricing, let me tell you that there are still good deals to be had. This flight is one of those good examples. Okay, this is the best flight of the year for me, hands down. Brand new Japan Airlines A350 1000 first class, which I booked 1 year in advance with over 144,000 Avios points. Definitely not cheap, but also reasonable, especially this is a really long flight flying from New York to Tokyo. I'll have a full review soon for this flight, stay tuned for that. Very satisfied with this flight. Possibly my best flight ever, and not just for this year. Staying with Japan Airlines still, but flying business class this time in their Apex suite from Tokyo to Beijing with just 24,500 Avios. Very decent price and product. And the reason for that flight is to catch Cathay's new business class, the Aria suite, and I paid 18,000 Avios. Now the Aria suite is somewhat controversial. I mentioned earlier that I even prefer their current business class seat than the Aria suite. Again, I'll have a separate video of this, but overall, I have a mixed feeling with this new seat. Not bad though, but I expected more from Cathay. The next 4 flights are in the same ticket, costing a total of 50,000 aeroplane points, with 2 Asiana business class flights and 2 Singapore Airlines business class flights, flying to Seoul, Hanoi, Singapore, and then to Bali. If you know aeroplane well enough, you can pull a multi-city journey with very little points. These 50,000 points are really well spent. Okay, so this next KLM business class flight, I didn't use points but just pure cash, and it cost $238 only, flying from Bali to Singapore. Because of how cheap it was, it just didn't make sense to use points, but say if each point is worth 1.5 cents, this flight would have cost around 16,000 points, so not too bad either. And so I'll also add that into the calculation. Next, a pair of Singapore Airlines and Cathay flights with a total of 35,000 aeroplane points, flying from Singapore to Bangkok and Hong Kong. These 2 airlines are probably my most flown airlines over the years. I definitely think that they're losing their shine in the past few years, especially Cathay. Anyway, more discussion about them in future videos. Then Qatar first class again, but this time with ex-Cathay 777 planes, one of the best first class seats from the previous generation. It feels better than it looks and has this comfy sofa feel to it. And pairing it with epic Qatar hospitality, this is yet again another wonderful flight. And just like the Bangkok to Dubai flight, this flight cost me 82,500 Avios flying from Hong Kong to Doha and onwards to Dubai. Coming up is probably the most controversial and contrasting pair of flights, Air India. I took the 787 business class from Dubai to Delhi first. As expected, the flight was, well, but I also managed my expectation coming into this flight. So I wasn't disappointed per se, and to be frank, it wasn't that bad. But things took a complete 180 when I got onto their latest A350 business class from Delhi to London. Man, this is one of my favorite flights last year. If you know the story of Air India for the past few years, you know that they want to change the destiny of the airline, and they have proven to me that they are serious, putting only the best crew into the A350 fleet and putting in extra time and effort into making every detail great. This flight completely changed my perception of Air India, and I know if they were given enough time, they have the potential to offer one of the best products connecting Asia Pacific and Europe as well as to North America. Air India definitely has the most intriguing comeback story, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for them. I have so much more to say about Air India, so a separate video is warranted. Anyway, these two flights plus a stopover in London, along with another short-haul Lufthansa business class flight to Frankfurt, costing me a total of 65,000 aeroplane points. A very good bargain indeed. My final two business class flights are with Air France, flying from Lisbon to Paris, a stopover there, and then ending my year with the brand new business class in their A350, and I got their big front seat. Amazing product, what can I say? It's Air France, possibly the best European airline now, and I used 50,000 Flying Blue points for these two flights. There are lots of positive reviews of Air France nowadays, so my expectation coming in was pretty high, but I'm glad most of my expectations were met. Overall, Air France deserves to be in my top 5 European airlines. Okay, who am I kidding? The best European airlines, alright? But you may be wondering, who are the other 4 airlines? Well, that is for another video, another day. So that's all the flights I have redeemed and flown last year, spending around 1.1 million miles in total. Now I haven't even added the flights I redeemed for my family, which would easily add in another 300,000 points. Yes, 300,000 points more. But this video is all about me only. I have obviously flown economy flights also, 18 of them in total to be exact. But they were only for short-haul flights with less than 3 hours flight time, so it's fine, I survived. Now, how do I get so many miles year after year? To be frank, it takes time and effort, and I want to make a separate video to explain to you all the details. But essentially, it comes down to 3 parts: making the right transactions with the right cards, taking advantage of referrals, and transfer bonuses. If you can master these 3 aspects, you are at least halfway there already. Anyway, more details to come in future videos, and I have so many airline reviews to make, it's gonna be a busy year for me.